The first thing everyone notices about Magic the Gathering is its 5-color system. And whatever the reason, sooner or later every single player gets asked the same question: what's your favorite color? And that is one of the hardest questions to truly answer, because the colors aren't exactly spelled out for each new player in the lore. But whether you are a new or old player, you probably lean more towards one or two colors. But do you know why you do? I'm going to help you answer that question today. We're going to trace the history of Magic's 5 colors all the way back before Magic even existed. We'll explore the philosophies, then define each one, see how those beliefs shape the mechanics, and then we'll discover the characters that have perfected the identities. But first, welcome to the channel. I'm Rusty, your local laboratory maniac, and this is Labman's Lore, where we connect you to your cards through story. On my last Magic Cosmology video, where I went over what mana is and why we tap lands according to the lore, my favorite comment was from James. He had his back against the wall with his Edgar Markov deck. The opponent had lethal on board, and he had a black market enchantment on the field, a powerful source of mana. He tapped his lands, floating mana into his mana pool, and then used Obliterate to destroy every creature, artifact, and land. This got him more counters on his black market, and he was able to use that as a mana source to win the game. Very impressive. In the comments of this video, put what your favorite color is and why, and I'll share it in my next video. I love seeing what you guys have to say. Let's wind the clock back to the early 1990s. Richard Garfield was designing what would eventually become Magic the Gathering, but the foundation for the game's 5 colors didn't begin with Magic. Years earlier, Richard had designed a card game called 5 Magics, inspired by the wildly unpredictable board game Cosmic Encounter. He wanted Magic to feel mysterious, like a force you could understand but never completely control. Garfield has also spoken about another influence, the fantasy novel Master of the 5 Magics. Between those inspirations, the seeds of Magic's iconic 5-color system had already been planted years before Alpha was ever printed. But inspiration is one thing. How does Garfield translate those ideas into Magic? The answer is hiding inside one of the smallest pieces of Magic history, the Alpha rulebook. If you opened an Alpha starter deck in 1993, you'd find a simple chart within the original rulebook that gave brief explanations for each color. For example, white mages draw their power from the planes. They specialize in healing, protection, and honorable warfare. Blue draws from islands, mastering knowledge, illusion, artifice, air, and water. A black mage channels the swamps, embracing death, ambition, sacrifice, and forbidden power. Red mana erupts from mountains as fire, emotion, destruction, and chaos. Green flows from forests, representing life, instinct, and nature. These, of course, are very simplistic descriptions of what magic the colors use, what lands they're drawn from. And for those just listening, there are also the enemy color details in there, which we'll cover in this video a little later. But even though these are just simple descriptions, they are still foundational to see where it all started. And if you really boil it down to one thing, if mana flows through everything, including every piece of life, the colors are really asking the same question: how should life exist? White has one answer to how to live life, blue has another. Black rejects them both, red thinks they're asking the wrong question entirely, and green believes the answer has been in front of them since the beginning. So how do you show a philosophy in its truest, purest form? The answer is to remove all compromise. No faction in Magic demonstrates that better than the creators of the new Phyrexian factions. Originally, all Phyrexians were aligned with black mana. Yawgmoth's process of completion stripped every single color away from a being except for black, leaving an undead husk of metal and flesh. The new Phyrexians evolved differently thanks to the 5 sons of Mirrodin, one for each color. Every creator shaped an entire faction in the light of those sons, around a single color of mana. While exceptions certainly exist, Each faction pushed its followers towards one dominant philosophy, creating perhaps the purest and most terrifying expressions of each color ever seen in Magic. So let's begin this with white. Those aligned with white mana believe life exists to create peace through order. To white, no individual is more important than the community. One person can fail. A family, a nation, a church, and an army can survive for generations. Rules aren't restrictions. They're the foundation that allows civilization to exist. That's why white mana gathers wherever people choose cooperation over selfishness. Utilitarian cities, organized places of worship, regulatory government buildings. Once you understand that philosophy, white's mechanics almost explain themselves. White creates communities. A single soldier may be weak, but together an army becomes stronger than any individual, which is why white excels at creating token armies like with Mondrak Glory Dominus, before strengthening them with an anthem effect like Honor of the Pure. Protecting that community is just as crucial. Cards like Ghostly Prison discourage aggression and punish crime, while stacks pieces like Phyrexian Censor slow everyone down so order can be maintained. Healing and life gain exists because preserving life and preventing the spread of disease strengthens the whole community. Cards like Soul Warden and Shattered Angel do just this, extending your life as your community grows. White's famous taxation effects suddenly make perfect sense too. Order requires rules. If someone chooses to disrupt that order, there should be a cost. Smothering Tithe doesn't simply generate treasure for you, it represents society demanding payment from those who benefit from its structure. Even white's card draw reflects its philosophy. Unlike blue, white doesn't seek endless knowledge. Unchecked curiosity can become ambition. Instead, white values shared wisdom, tradition, and learning that strengthens the community as a whole. As seen in Mentor of the Meek, who teaches the weak, and Cut a Deal, which represents ending conflict. And when white destroys something, it rarely does it out of revenge and emotion. It removes threats because those threats endanger everybody else. Path to Exile doesn't simply remove a creature, it exiles them from the community. White Sun's Twilight doesn't only spread Phyrexia, it transforms chaos into a perfect, unified order of tokens. No character embodies that philosophy more completely than Elesh Norn. As the leader of the machine orthodoxy, she truly believes completion is an act of mercy. Individuality creates conflict. Conflict creates suffering. Remove individuality and peace naturally will follow. When she learned of the multiverse, she didn't see worlds to conquer, she saw worlds waiting to be perfected. She used the words "all will be one." Those words are the logical conclusion of White's philosophy taken to the absolute extreme. Her cards reflect this belief perfectly. She strengthens her own community while weakening opposing ones. She doubles the blessings given to her followers while suppressing everyone else's. She demands tribute through taxation. And when she transforms into the Argent Etching Saga, she literally becomes the sacred teachings of the machine orthodoxy made manifest. Life should bring peace. Peace isn't maintained by chance. It's maintained through structure, through unity, and through unwavering order. What are some blind spots of white and its interpretation on how life should be? This is where many players misunderstand white. Because of its close association with religion, healing, and angels, many believe it's the color of good. Even Richard Garfield's first definition in the Alpha Rulebook used the word honorable, but that's just subjective. White isn't the color of good or honor, it's the color of order. Sometimes order creates compassion, justice, and peace. Families are safe, fulfilled, and if someone happens to try to harm them by breaking the rules, it's punished. Other times, white can create a system of oppression, censorship, and absolute control. White doesn't ask whether someone is free, it asks whether everyone is united and order is maintained. It's the philosophy of utilitarianism, that individuals and their rights can be lost in the masses. Blue's answer is very different. Life exists to become something greater. Blue believes no one is born perfect. Every mistake can be corrected, every weakness can be overcome. Knowledge is the path to perfection and logic. Emotion clouds judgment, impulse leads to failure, and if white asks people to obey the rules, blue asks them to understand them. That's why blue mana gathers wherever curiosity thrives. Ancient libraries filled with forgotten knowledge, vast oceans hiding mysteries beneath their surface, secret laboratories where science and magic are constantly being pushed beyond their limits. Anywhere people seek understanding, blue mana naturally flows. Once you understand that philosophy, blue's mechanics almost explain themselves. Blue draws cards because in Magic, drawing cards represents gaining knowledge. Your library is everything you know or have yet to learn. Every card drawn is another idea towards perfection. Brainstorm isn't just drawing 3 cards, it's a brilliant mind racing through possibilities and getting rid of the bad ideas. Gitaxian Probe isn't simply looking at your opponent's hand, it's gathering information before acting, because to blue, information is power. Blue also gathers information by scrying to see the future. Cards like Preordain and Psychic Surgery let blue shape what is to come next, because preparation will always triumph over blind reaction. A blue mage might want to gain more information by invading the mind of the opponent. Also, they can make them lose their memories. This is represented in the mill mechanic. In terms of gameplay, their library is their mind, their memories. So cards like Jace the Perfected Mind might make them lose those memories, gaining information from your opponent and make them less of a threat. Even Blue's most infamous mechanic, counterspells, fits perfectly with its philosophy. To everyone else, a counterspell is just saying no to your spell. To Blue, it's correcting an error before it ever happens. Why solve a problem after it exists when you can prevent it from existing at all? Try convincing your opponent that using Counterspell or Corrupted Resolve to counter their commander is actually good for them. You're just preventing them from making a bad mistake. It's all logical, don't even feel anything bad about it. You will definitely be yelled out of the room, in my opinion. This is why Blue sometimes has a bad rap. Blue's love of artifacts follows this same philosophy. Nature isn't the finished product. Life can always be improved upon, and when you invent something, it can also be improved upon. Don't just accept what is good enough. Darksteel Colossus is the perfect example of this. Most would consider a 11/11 with trample and indestructible as sufficient enough, but not Blue. They improved upon it, evolved it into Blightsteel Colossus, which has Infect on top of its other stats. No character in Magic embodies that belief system more completely than Gitaxias and the philosophy of the Great Synthesis. On his cards, he can expand his own knowledge while stripping it from everyone else. He copies his own perfect designs while rejecting the imperfect work of others. And when he transforms into the Great Synthesis Saga, he pursues the ultimate Blue ideal: endless improvement through knowledge, experimentation, and completion. To Gitaxias, perfection isn't a destination, it's the process that never truly ends. And to every Blue mage, life isn't something to preserve, it's something to perfect. What does the philosophy of Blue miss? What are its blind spots? Blue's pursuit of improvement can prevent it from ever accepting that something is already good enough. In trying to eliminate every imperfection, Blue can forget that life is meant to be lived, not endlessly revised. It can also abandon most morality and strive so hard for perfection it can get really dark. Often, Blue mages accomplish what many would think as horrific acts: experimentation, gene splicing, cloning, and weapons that can destroy planes can just be a typical Friday night for a Blue mage. Black's answer is far more personal. Life exists to fulfill your own ambitions. After all, if you only get one life, shouldn't you spend it pursuing what you want? Black rejects the idea that the multiverse has a universal moral good. Good, evil, that's simply labels other people use to control you. What truly matters is whether you achieve your goals. That's why black mana gathers where life is harsh and secluded. Swamps, graveyards, forgotten ruins, places abandoned by every other color. In those places, power lies waiting because everyone else fears the cost of claiming it. Black doesn't, because black understands one simple rule. No one is coming to help you. Claim it all for yourself. Once you understand Black's philosophy on life, its mechanics make more sense. Black willingly pays life because life is simply another resource. In Magic, your life total represents your soul and your vitality. If sacrificing a piece of your own life or soul brings you one step closer to your goal, why wouldn't you make that trade? Phyrexian Arena is an enchantment that embodies this perfectly. Every turn you surrender a small part of yourself, just one life. And in return, you gain something far more valuable to Black: opportunity and power. Black also sacrifices its own creatures because loyalty only really matters as long as it's useful. When one of your servants has fulfilled their purpose, simply get rid of it and find another. Few cards demonstrate this better than Yawgmoth Thran Physician. In his pursuit to mastering life and death, countless lives became little more than experiments and stepping stones towards his greater goal. If a black mage will sacrifice their allies when they're no longer useful, what will they do to their enemies? If you stand in their way, they have a variety of spells focused on removing you from the board. Doomblade is a brutally efficient method to destroy even the most righteous angel, and Dismember is an aptly brutal name for a common skill in their toolbox. When pursuing your own goals, even death isn't an obstacle. Reanimation is all about refusing to waste valuable resources. Cards like Living Death and Phyrexian Delver remind us that even in death, our servants can still serve our goals. Black even attacks the mind. Discard spells strip away memories, plans, and opportunities, leaving opponents with fewer choices while Black gains all the advantage. Why fight an opponent's army when you can dismantle the mind commanding it? Cards like Thoughtseize and Duress embody this philosophy perfectly. And when seeking knowledge, they use powerful tutors. Mentors that have already gained knowledge and power and are willing to share it. But that power and knowledge come with a price. Power is never free after all. Black mages simply accept the bargain. Whether it's Grim Tutor, Cruel Tutor, or Vampiric Tutor, a black mage understands that every shortcut demands sacrifice. It's often associated with the color of evil, but that's not really what it is. It's the color of self-interest. This is neither good nor evil, it just depends. Sometimes pursuing your own ambition creates brilliant innovators, fearless leaders, and people willing to challenge unjust systems. Other times it creates villains, murderers, and thieves. Black doesn't judge whether your goal is noble. It asks only one question: how badly do you want it? Few characters embody that philosophy more completely than Sheoldred. Of all the creators, she remained one of the closest to Yawgmoth's original vision of Phyrexia and the teachings found within the true scriptures. She opposed Elesh Norn's unity in response to her own power. Her cards are evidence for all of this. She will raise the dead so they can serve her. She demands sacrifice from you because everything has a price. She strips away her opponent's options while rewarding those who further her own ambitions. When she transforms into the saga, the true scriptures, she attacks both body and mind, forcing discard before raising the dead to serve Phyrexia once more. To Sheoldred, death is not the ending, it's just recruitment. To Black, life isn't meant to be spent serving others, it's yours to spend however you choose. Extend it, risk it, sacrifice it, as long as it brings you closer to becoming everything you're capable of. This philosophy has its own fair share of blind spots. Let me ask you, would you trust someone who had the philosophy to look after themselves at the expense of others? They have trouble making allies. When someone does become a resource, black eventually finds itself surrounded by enemies. And if you do gain an ally, is their loyalty true, or are you just their means to an end? Its independence also makes it difficult to exploit or control typically, but the forces it appeals to can change them. Hang around large, powerful demons, you will eventually get influence one way or the other. After all, demons can possess you in more ways than one. Red's answer to life couldn't be more different. Life exists to be experienced. Red believes that emotions aren't weaknesses to overcome. They're the very reason why life is worth living. Joy, anger, love, fear, and passion, these aren't obstacles to be controlled. They're what makes us alive. If blue spends its time planning for tomorrow, red asks one simple question: why wait? That's why red mana gathers in mountains, volcanoes, and raging storms. Places where change happens in an instant, where the world refuses to stand still. Red trusts emotion over logic, freedom over order, and instinct over calculation. Once you see the world through that lens, its mechanics suddenly make perfect sense. One of the key words associated with red is haste. If the perfect moment to act is right now, why would creatures wait until your next turn? Cards like Anger give your creatures haste as long as you're connected to a mountain. Chancellor of the Forge creates a horde of goblins with haste before the game even begins. Why wait to start fighting? Fight now. Red also turns mana directly into raw destructive energy. Spells like Lightning Bolt and Gut Shot aren't subtle or carefully planned. They're pure passion made physical now, and your opponent will react however they react. Temporary mana from rituals like Seeding Song follow the same philosophy. Red would rather have an explosive burst of energy and power this turn than patiently investing for the future. Tomorrow's mana doesn't matter if today is the turn that wins the game. Even the way red draws cards reflects this mindset. It's called impulse draw. Instead of carefully calculating and collecting knowledge like blue, red lives in the present. It acts on opportunity while the moment still exists, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Red exiles cards from the top of its library and tells you, use them now or lose them forever. Inspiration is fleeting and red refuses to let it pass by. Red is even willing to burn through its own resources if that means winning right now. Cards like Fling sacrifice a creature for one final explosive attack. And Sulfa Mayhem Dominus discards cards to stick around to cause even more burn damage. Few characters embody that philosophy better than Urabrask, Praetor of the Furnace Layer, and his vision of the great work. Urabrask gives his followers haste, rewards taking action with bursts of mana, and offers impulse draw instead of long-term planning. Unlike the other Praetors, he values independence. He opposed Elesh Norn during the Phyrexian Civil War, and her vision of absolute unity, believing that every being should choose their own path that leads to Phyrexia. He wants people to be united under Phyrexia, but only if they make the choice. Freedom, not obedience, is what defines his vision for perfection. To a red mage, life isn't about reaching the destination, it's about embracing the freedom of the fire along the way. What are the blind spots of red's philosophy? Red expresses life more honestly than any other color, but freedom without restraint can become recklessness. The decision that feels right in the moment can create consequences a red mage never stopped to consider. Emotion can skew logic, cause people to lash out in anger, make it hard to make allies. Although closely associated with artifice, they can destroy things in those moments of anger. An uncontrolled fire consumes all in the end. Green's answer to what life is and how it should be lived is probably the simplest of them all. Life exists to become what it was always meant to be naturally. A green mage believes that the world is already perfect, not because nothing ever dies, but because everything has its place. Predators hunt prey, forests burn so new life can grow, Creatures are born, they die, and they return to the earth. It's the cycle of life. To green, nature has already spent countless generations solving the problems the other colors are trying to fix. Evolution has already done the hard work for you. Every creature alive today is the product of those who were strong enough, fast enough, and adaptive enough to survive. The natural world doesn't need to be reinvented, it simply needs to be understood. That's why green mana flows through forests, jungles, ancient trees, and thriving ecosystems. Wherever green mana flows, natural life prospers. It seeks to live within it, understand its place, and allow the natural order to continue. Once you understand that philosophy, green's mechanics begin to make perfect sense. Green mages have a deep bond with the land. Cards like Nature's Lore and other ram spells represent a planeswalker or green mage reforging ever deeper connections with the world's natural energy, allowing the land itself to provide everything you need. Even through death, nature continues to give. Viridian Emissary reminds us that when one life ends, another part of the world grows stronger. A green mage doesn't invent the greatest creatures, they call upon them. Cards like Green Sun Zenith search for exactly the creature nature has already perfected for the task at hand. Those aren't monsters created through magic or artifice, they are the pinnacle of evolution, survivors that earn their place through countless generations. Few embody that better than the unstoppable Tyrannix Rex. And even Green's hatred for artifice kinda makes sense with this philosophy. Cards like Naturalize and Canker Bloom aren't destroying inventions just because Green hates technology, they're removing artificial creations that replace nature's cycle of perfection with manufactured shortcuts. To Green, if something cannot survive without being built, perhaps it was never meant to survive at all. Few beings embody evolution in the natural order more completely than Vorinclex in his vision with the grand evolution. To Vorinclex, strength isn't earned through knowledge or ambition, it is proven through survival. He accelerates growth by doubling counters, ensuring the strong become even stronger. He also tears away the enemy's progress because weakness deserves no advantage. Above all else, Vorinclex believes conflict reveals perfection. Every battle removes the weak and leaves only those worthy of carrying life forward. Whether they survive or become Phyrexian, only the strong remain. Life isn't about changing who you are, what you want, or what you know. It's about becoming who nature intended you to be. What are the blind spots of the color green? Well, green understands that not everything needs to be changed, but acceptance can become fatalism. Calling something natural does not necessarily make it just, merciful, or inevitable. Nature can be wrong sometimes. Nature can be harsh and lack compassion. When you believe the fit have the only rights, that they are the only ones worth surviving, the weak get crushed. When a large jaw opens around you and you are the prey, the horror of green can become suddenly self-evident. Now that you have a good understanding of the philosophies of each color, you can start to see major differences and some similarities. Richard Garfield won in 5 colors cause, as he described it, he didn't want a game of rock, paper, scissors. So the colors often compete in an ecosystem. Some do things that the others can't. They each have their own advantages and weaknesses. They have enemies and they also have allies. So let's get into some of them briefly, because in the ancient days of 1990s, these played a huge role, and they still play a role to this day. The enemy colors aren't enemies because one is good and the other is evil. They're enemies because they look at the same problem and arrive to completely different answers. White and black disagree over the needs of the community versus the desires of the individual. White believes society only works when people accept responsibilities beyond themselves. Sometimes you have to sacrifice what you want for the good of your family, your nation, and your community. But to black, society often uses words like duty, morality, and sacrifice to convince individuals to surrender their freedom. Why should you abandon your ambitions simply because other people benefit from it? White aligned mages look at those aligned with black and see selfishness without limits. Black mages look at the philosophy of white and see a system designed to control people. This is represented in the Phyrexian Civil War, where Sheoldred's desire for power made her raise arms against Elesh Norn. She ended up failing, submitting to her, but trying again. Her ambition knows no bounds, only to finally be defeated by the Grand Cenobite. A red mage and a blue mage disagree over reason versus emotion. Those aligned with a blue believe our impulses are unreliable. Anger can make you reckless, fear can prevent us from acting, and love can blind us from the truth. If we want to make the best decision, we need to slow down, gather information, and think. A red mage believes blue's approach misses the entire point of being alive. Emotions aren't errors that need correction. How else are we going to understand what matters to us? You don't need to conduct an experiment to know that you love someone. Blue sees red as impulsive and irresponsible. Red sees blue as cold, hesitant, and afraid to truly live. This can be seen in the differences between Gitaxias and Urabrask and how they use artifice. Gitaxias strives to use it to convert others, like planeswalkers, into further Phyrexian design. Urabrask believes in the great works, building artifice as an expression of yourself, as art, a thing of beauty, a thing to attract, not force new recruits to Phyrexia's cause. So both further Phyrexia's goals in the end, but the paths are in opposite directions. Black and green disagree over ambition versus acceptance. Green believes every living thing has a nature, a role, a place within the greater world. Happiness comes from understanding who you are and playing your role in that world. Black refuses to accept that anyone gets to decide where its place is. Why should your birth, your ancestry, or your circumstances in your life determine who you become? If the natural order places you at the bottom, Black believes you have every single right to climb over anyone necessary to reach the top. Green sees Black as endlessly dissatisfied, destroying everything around it in the pursuit for more power. Black sees Green's acceptance as surrender disguised as wisdom. This is seen best in the different ways Sheoldred and Vorinclex behaved in the Civil War. When the fighting broke out, Sheoldred stood up against the superior forces of Elesh Norn in her orthodoxy, not accepting her place and striving to wrestle control from those that would keep her down. Vorinclex not only sided with Elesh Norn, he did so obediently. After all, she was superior to him, way stronger, and she also allowed him to continue his great evolution as long as it didn't disrupt her order. Red and white disagree over freedom versus structure. White believes freedom without rules eventually becomes chaos. If everyone simply follows their own desires, the powerful will prey on the weak, promises will mean nothing, and communities will collapse. Red believes rules can become prisons. A peaceful society means very little if people aren't free to speak, to love, or to create. Order may prevent conflict, but it also can prevent change. White sees red as reckless. Red sees white as oppressive. This is best represented by Elesh Norn's joint creation of Gitaxias. When the Civil War on New Phyrexia was complete, as a sign of unity, Elesh Norn gathered the Praetors to convert Gitaxias, a fallen angel in the war. Urabrask refused to take part, disagreeing with forced conversion even as a sign of unity. He went his own way while she tried to unite the plane. And lastly, green and blue disagree over nature versus nurture, a classic debate. Green believes you aren't an empty page to be filled. You were born with qualities that connect you to your family line, your environment, and the natural world. Blue believes accepting those limitations prevents growth. It doesn't matter what you were born as. Through education, technology, and discipline, you could become something greater. Green sees blue constantly trying to fix a world that was never broken. Blue sees green as accepting flaws that could be perfected. This is represented best in the goals of Gitaxias and Vorinclex during the multiversal invasion. Vorinclex wanted to go to the planes with the largest creatures to either convert them through his sheer power or die to a superior foe. Either way, Phyrexia will be stronger. Gitaxias engaged more in an intelligence warfare situation, picking locations that have knowledge and technology that could be perfected and used as a means to Phyrexia's ends. But the color pie isn't built entirely around conflict. Every color has two enemies, but it also has two allies, even blue. And being allies doesn't mean the two colors completely agree on everything. They simply share enough fundamental beliefs to understand one another, even if they disagree on the details. White looks at blue and sees another color that values planning, structure, and careful thought. Both distrust impulsive decisions and would rather prevent problems than react to them. But white wants to perfect society, while blue is more interested in perfecting individuals. We see this in the relationship between Elesh Norn and Gitaxias. Norn looked across the multiverse and saw worlds that needed to be united beneath Phyrexia. Jin saw the worlds that could be studied and perfected. One perfected the vision of a unified society, the other developed tools necessary to create it. Blue's other ally is Black. Both understand that information is power. Blue asks, "How does this work?" and Black asks, "How can I use it?" Gitaxias and Sheoldred demonstrate this difference perfectly. Jin gathers information like a scientist, studying, experimenting, and searching for understanding. Sheoldred approaches information gathering more like a spy, infiltrating, manipulating, and searching for a weakness she can exploit. Both seek forbidden knowledge, they just want it for different reasons. Black also finds an unlikely friend in Red. Both value the individual. Black follows ambition, while Red follows emotion. Neither wants someone else deciding how they should live. But Black makes plans, while Red doesn't always bother. We see that difference in Sheoldred and Urabrask's opposition to Elesh Norn. Sheoldred plotted against Norn because she wanted power for herself. Urabrask rebelled because Norn's demands for conformity violated his belief in independence. That instinct brings Red closer to Green as well. Red and Green both trust something within themselves. Red trusts emotion while Green trusts instinct. Neither believes every decision requires endless analysis. Both embrace a wildness that other colors try to control. Forests do burn, predators do kill, and storms destroy. Green understands that destruction is part of nature, while Red certainly doesn't need convincing that some things need to burn. Urabrask and Vorinclex and how they behave represent this perfectly. Urabrask acts because his convictions demand it, he feels it. Vorinclex acts because strength and survival demand it, nature has put that instinct in him. And finally, Green finds an ally in White. At first, that seems strange. While White builds civilizations, Green represents nature, the opposite. But both believe the individual belongs to something greater. White calls it society, and Green calls it nature. Even Elesh Norn and Vorinclex can arrive at similar ideas about hierarchy for completely different reasons. Norn believes hierarchy creates order, while Vorinclex believes hierarchy emerges naturally through strength. If something proves itself dominant, then its place at the top is simply the result of competition. And here's one of the most interesting parts of the ally colors. Look closely at what each color dislikes about its allies, and you'll often find its enemies hiding there. Each color looks at its neighbor and sees a part of themselves reflected back. But in that reflection, something uncomfortable and unfamiliar stares back. Your enemies force you to defend what you believe. Your allies remind you that even someone who agrees with you can arrive at a different answer. Every time two different colors meet, they create another answer to the question we've been asking throughout this entire video. How should life exist? In my opinion, these disagreements are why the color pie has endured for more than 30 years. No color is completely correct, and no color is completely wrong. Each one recognizes a truth that its enemy colors overlook. If you found yourself agreeing with all the colors in one way or the other, that's totally normal. If you heavily lean towards one and thought, why would anyone like that color? That's also normal. It's all subjective. It's just how you personally see life. And that translation is why I think the five color system works out beautifully, both lore and mechanically. Many see Phyrexia as the corruption of mana. But from the Phyrexian point of view, it's the purest expression of each color's philosophy. Now that you've heard those philosophies laid out, let me ask you a question. How do you see life? Do you believe order and laws are the path to peace? That one should protect those who can't protect themselves? Or do you think knowledge, curiosity, and technology can perfect a broken world? Do you believe life is yours to live? Risk it, sacrifice it, extend it. No matter where you come from, cream should always rise to the top. Or are you a planeswalker attuned with their emotions and want to live in the moment? Do you believe in absolute freedom? Or do you feel home in nature, a world that was already perfected through millennia of evolution? I'm really curious to see where everyone lands on the color pie, no pun intended. And maybe you are wondering what I believe, what color I attune to. Now, for this video, I try to stay unbiased, but you probably no surprise, I am a blue aligned person. Yeah, I poked fun at blue during the video, but I love research, and that's why I love making videos for this channel. I also try to make my life a bit more perfect through technology and education, but can anyone outside of Gitaxias really reach perfection? I do have a few videos I will release eventually. I'd like to tell you about them just in case you want to see them and subscribe. And if you're watching this in the far future, hopefully I've made them and you can just go watch them. Now, in the Cosmology series, where I go over the world of Magic trying to make sense of its whole structure, I've covered the multiverse, old planeswalkers, the mending, what mana is and how we tap lands, and now I've done the color pairings. But another one I want to do is the Edge of Eternities and its role in the multiverse. Then in my threat assessment series, which I've already covered slivers and how they can spread to the whole multiverse, I'm going to be focusing on what I'd say is the biggest threat to the multiverse, Nicol Bolas. He is free now, and as Jace does his little shenanigans with his meditation realm and the reality fracture, I believe that's temporary. Bolas is forever. And I'm going to do another video in my Forgotten Lore series. I've done Alpha and Arabian Nights. Next, I'm going to do Antiquities. It is a set about the Brothers' War. I'm going to talk about how it changed Magic, what methods of war they used during that war, and so on. And I will be collaborating with another YouTuber who will make EDH decks corresponding with my lore video. Lastly, I'd also love to hear your opinion on this. Now, in this video, despite the length of the video, I actually had to cut down a lot. I think this video could have easily been 5 times its length, but no one wants to watch like a 5-hour video. Okay, are you interested in a bigger deep dive on each color, maybe on each color pairing? What is your thoughts on that? I also had some ideas, most would be speculation, but I had ideas based around colorless mana and what it means in the lore. I also thought, what do people in the world of Magic the Gathering think of mana? Do they know it exists? Do they know the colors exist? And if they do, how do they see them? Do they see them as red, blue, and all that? Or do they see them as something else? There's actually a lot of lore based on this. And lastly, one thing I wanted to cover, tell me if you're interested, is why there isn't a 6th color in Magic. That would be based off of speculation. I, of course, would provide in-source references like I did in this video based on that speculation, but still, what are your thoughts on that? And if you want, subscribe to my EDH deck building channel, where I focus on building unique decks, sometimes around lore. And I do have a Patreon. Right now it's more geared towards EDH players. The benefits for it, like I help them build decks and make videos based on decks. But I want to extend it to my lore viewers. That way you guys can participate in it. I do have a Discord. It's free to join. We talk about lore. We talk about EDH decks. However, I would ask you guys the question, Is there a lore benefit that you want me to add to the tiers? I can make videos on specific stuff, but I'm just not sure what benefits one might have. I do free giveaways every month. I make foil proxies and mail them out to people. But outside of that, I want to know what kind of lore benefits you might want. With all that being said, I appreciate you watching if you still are, and I'll see you in the next one, Planeswalkers.